Hi. Blair here of Chaos Costumes to give you the final installment of the armor tutorial. We've made a lot of things like a helmet, pauldrons, bracers, a war belt, and what's next? Well, you'll get to see, because without further ado, let's get to it. So if you remember correctly, last time we made this sweet war belt, and this time we're going to finish out this armor with some leg armor. It has a name. I'm pretty sure it has a name. I believe it's greaves for the shin armor. And I'm sure the knee armor has a special name, but we're just going to call it knee. And to start out these greaves, we're going to add a cylinder. And then I'll make it 7 wide, and then 5 wide at the bottom. And 31, keep in mind these are radiuses. Radii? I didn't realize this, but those are millimeters. So I'll figure that out later. But I'll increase the division of this shape. So I'm going to do something that I learned from my friend James Spears about masking, but not with symmetry turned on. And then I'll invert that mask, and then I'll blur it significantly. Then I'll go in with the gizmo, and I perfectly have adjusted this shape. For some reason, I didn't realize that if you blur the mask, it changes how it modifies things in a gradient. But yeah, I clear the mask, and now it's this perfect little oblong shape that I can go in and force symmetry with, and make that beautiful crest. I can go in with the tube and draw out the border around here. Just like the rest of the pieces, we'll change the profile, and I'll just twist it around to line it up nicely, and increase the division. I want to drag out this point further. Same with this point back here, so I can go in and validate it and mirror it, so it's nice and pointy in the front. I'll do the same thing along the bottom. Changing the profile to square, and twisting it so it lines up nicely. And validating it, and forcing symmetry. Now we're going to move on to the center detail. And I'm turning on the grid with the magnet so I can get it perfectly straight up and down. Turning on the square profile, but I'm going to make it a little shallower this time. And then I can actually cut mirror this before I validate it, because it will validate in that menu. And I'm just going to keep adding details with the tube tool. And turning on the mirror. Now I'm just going to go in with the move tool and make this more calf shaped instead of just a cone. I really should have done this before I added the details, but here we are. I'm going to show everything and see how everything's overlapping. And that is a little too deep, so I'm just going to make it a little bit more shallow. I'm just going to pull that out a little bit with the move tool. Just want to make sure everything's lined up nicely. This front bit I don't want visible on the outside, so I'm just going to use the move tool and just push this in and pull that out a little bit. And I want these edges to line up with the top and bottom a little bit better, so I'll just shrink it down and move it. I like to move it, move it.
I like to move it, move it.
Did anyone else grow up with jock jams? Like, yeah, like the one, lemur from Zootopia, is it? Sung it, but like, I know the song from a long, long time ago. I like to move it, that one, yeah. Just want to line up everything inside of these shapes, because I'm going to use a fancy new technique that I've been practicing and get to show you. And it's called messing with face groups. So I can just mask things on tap. By selecting up here, by just tapping the area of the face group, and it automatically masks it. Then I'll invert that. I'll just use the gizmo and stretch it out a little bit.
Wow.
So fancy. We'll see why I'm doing this imminently. When I say imminently, it sounds like a threat. I could use a sphere, quad sphere, and make the knee part. I'll stretch it out a little bit, increase the subdivision, and validate it. Now we'll go in with the select mask and a square or rectangle. Turn off symmetry. And I'll just blur this transition. Then I'll go in with the gizmo and grab the little triangle there to just bring it out, make it diagonal, just like that. And it's a little too deep, so I'll shrink it down a little bit and drag it out a smidge. I'm just looking for this crest to be nice and defined. And I can go in and cut mirror it. Now I can go in and add a tube, just like I did before. And slap on a square profile. It's a little bit more shallow. So if you haven't watched the other videos, I have my offset when drawing a curve set to 0. That helps it touch the actual shape instead of it hovering over the top. And I'm just using the twist to make it so that it lines up nicely along this spherical object. And if you're having trouble with the tube tool, make sure snapping is turned off when you're modifying it. But I'll increase the division and validate that bastard and mirror it. And if you notice, the geometry is heckin' terrible right there. I do have a solution for that also involves face groups. So you could just paint the face groups along the side here, which I learned recently, and you can change the color in this top left corner here. And yeah, you can just color in all the little squares. Kind of reminds me of like painting in MS Paint. Yeah, now I can go in with the mask. I'll turn off the wireframe and make sure to have on tap selected and just tap what I just painted. And now it will preserve the edge like I've always wanted. And well, I need to preserve the edge on the inside here too. So I'll just go in and paint the face group. It doesn't have to be perfect or pretty or nice. It just has to be done. I mean, along the edge it has to be perfect, but that's about it. I'm actually making the brush really tiny so I can get all up in there without it spilling over the edge. Now that those edges will be preserved with the mask, I can go in and smooth out all this stupid nonsense. This top edge is really egregious, so I'll invert the mask and then go in with the move tool to move it down a lot and move it in, trying to keep that sharp. Then I'll go in with the mask and invert it again. Then I'll go in with the smooth tool and flatten that out. That got really divoted there, so I'll just move it back up. And flatten that gap. This is 100% my fault for choosing just flat angles like this. But the design must be completed. I must do it this exact way. I will force it into existence. I'll just turn on the wire mesh and paint, once again, these little corners here. It's just rinsing and repeating the same thing with the top side. Now that we have it marginally cleaned up, I'll voxel remesh this together, keeping sharp edges. And now I can smooth out this little crease here that formed when both of the pieces of geometry came together. I can just go in and cut mirror that. Observe the perfection-ish. See things I don't like, fix it, as I do. There's a shadow here, I must fix it. Eventually, I'm over it, and I say, good enough. Let's push this around. Then I'll trim it, just to sharpen those edges. And I'll just have the line tool at a degree of 1, just so it snaps a little bit. I can sharpen that off, but the geometry got weird there, so I'll have to remesh it again. Now I got rid of that sparkly geometry. And I want to clean up these corners too, so I'll go in with the polygon and the trim tool. Just line that up nicely. And trim it out. And while I'm here, might as well get the bottom. I can select both of those items. I'll join them, and then voxel remesh them together. Now I'll decimate it a smidge, just so it doesn't crash my very rudimentary machine for the next step. And I'm realizing finally that these are millimeters, not centimeters, so I'll have to fix that. So I'll just make this bigger by 10 units, and that should help. Now with this piece, I'll select everything, make that bigger by 10 units. Bring my knee back to the scene and drag that up. And now I fixed my problem, and we can now move on to the next step. after decimating the bejesus out of it. Now I can just tap outside of the shape and it will mask the whole thing. And then I will do a thickness of -2.5 and extract that shell. I'll hide the shape underneath it, and I'm going to use a new technique to trim things nice and cleanly with face groups. So I'll go in with a new color, which is this little plus mark here, and just tap inside of there. Now I can mask outside of here with face groups on tap. Invert that mask, and I'm going to try something with the trim tool. I'll just trim that out. That got rid of that skin, but I still have the inner flesh to deal with. So I'm actually going to hide the backside so I can see in here and see how that face group is the same color. It will be a problem in the future. So I'm just going to make that face group a different color. And you can auto pick existing colors, kind of like an eyedropper tool. And I'll toggle that off and make that the same color in here. Now this light blue, I can tap that and actually hide it on tap, which is a new thing that I'm learning. Then I can go to the hide menu down here and just delete that thing. But it makes holes, and the best solution I've found is just going in with a trim tool, trimming just a little bit, and it just calculates all around here. And now I can smooth around here after getting rid of the mask. That makes it so much nicer. And it's pretty easy. I mean, it's not super clean because I decimated the shape. If you had a more powerful machine, you probably could get away with not decimating it before shelling it. But I know that it's very taxing for my machine to try and do it that way. So I deal with the consequences, e.g. smoothing around these edges here. It's very satisfying though. See the little spiky geometry disappear. And since it didn't really modify it equally, I just force symmetry and remesh it. And I can go in and smooth it some more. After remeshing, the smooth is so much more effective. Now, I'm actually going to try something with the face groups, and I want to make this interior color all the same. So I'll just paint that, making front-facing vertexes turned on. I'll go in and mask on tap this interior section, invert the mask, and then go in with the operation and smooth it out. This saves me a lot of time, wow. And I'll inflate it just a smidge. And smooth it, and inflate it. Bop it, twist it. Bop it. Twist it. I made this a little too big, so let's kick down the inflate. There we go, it's nice and pretty on the inside, and I didn't have to manually smooth it. I love face groups. Face groups are awesome. I'm never going back. I can just smooth this transition a bit. There's one thing that I care about a lot, and it's making my models look nice, inside and out. But now, we're gonna make more sections, so I copied that one piece, and I'm gonna split it. And now I have two pieces. And I want this piece to be a little longer. So what are we gonna do again? Face groups, yay! And it looks like they calculated that's a new face group there, so that's good. So I'm just gonna go in with the mask, on tap that little purple section there, invert the mask, and just go in with the gizmo, and change the pivot, which got weird, and drag that down a bit. Make it a little bit smaller so it's more tapered. I just want this to have a little bit more wiggle room for what we're trying to do, which is make plates of armor. And I'll go in, solo this piece, and it looks like it did not calculate the face group as a separate thing on this edge, but that's no problem because we can fix it! I'll just do a new color and tap that edge there, and go in with the mask tool, on tap that lip, invert the mask, use the gizmo to drag it up, and with the pivot improved. If you're having trouble moving the whole shape instead of just what you selected, mess with the settings on the gizmo. What it's selecting, it's between like group, object. I don't remember what the other ones were. I'll clear the mask just so I can smooth out this bevel and weird geometry here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want it to be apparent. Now I can clear that mask completely. I'll clear the mask on this guy. I swear, like with the update, the pivot gets weird every time. See, look, it's like diagonal. Why is this? Now I could show the original shape and start making these plates make sense. So I'll push them back a little bit and resize them with the gizmo. Just want to make sure they're touching so they print as a unit. And I'll just use the move tool on these little corners here. Now what I can do is start fishing out this greave part. So I am just going to go straight into voxel remeshing it, making sure to keep sharp edges, and decimating it to oblivion so it doesn't crash my machine when I do the next step. Then mask the whole thing and make a shell that is -2.5 and hide the original shape. Then go in with the face group and select these outer portions with a new color. Now I can go in with the mask on tap those sections, invert the mask, and I'm just going to trim it. That makes sense to my little brain. So for these intersections, so I can see what the hell's going on, I'm going to hide the middle so I can see, clearing the mask. I can see what's going on in there. I can change the color of the inside of this wall. Same within here. Now we can go in and mask on the inside. Invert that mask and trim the rest of that out. Now we can go in and clear the hide and clear the mask. And I'm gonna make sure to close off this geometry because right now it is open. And in order to get in there the way I want to, I will need to hide the top half. And literally, I just need to trim out just a tiny little bit, and it calculates all the way around, enclosing off the geometry. You cannot voxel remesh this because it will just bridge the entire gap and ruin everything that you tried to do. I tried, trust me. Just hide that bottom half so I can get access to the top half. You want to catch both sides when you're trimming, just so it just calculates all the way around. I totally found this out on accident. I wasn't doing it on purpose at all. Now I can go in with the face groups. On the inside, I'm going to try something new with smoothing around the border. Let's make all of this the same color inside of here. I can go in with the mask, untap, tap that intersection we just did, invert that, and then go in with the global operation of inflating and smoothing, and perfectly smooths out the inside of that. Isn't that cool? I like it a lot. The reason why I inflate and smooth is because when you smooth something, it might get a little too close to the outside, so I inflate it just to be sure. Now I can go in and smooth this little edge here, and it just smooths it together and saves me time. Look at that.
Wow.
I'm noticing it got a little too close right here, and that will become a problem, especially when slicing. So I tried to smooth it out a little bit, but it's still way too thin. So in order to solve that problem, I'm going to try masking it, inverting the mask, then looking at it with the wireframe and using the move tool just to move that geometry down to make that lip a little thicker. Just grabbing it where all the points converge and pushing it down. I can just go back and smooth out this weird geometry. But yeah, I did a lot of learning in this process, believe it or not, even though I am just doing the same thing over and over again, right? Doing it more efficiently. I guess with practice comes efficiency. Perfection is not an achievable goal. Let's get real here. Like the saying goes, practice makes perfect, but like, perfection is so subjective. So, what you see me do here might be perfect, but for me it's like, oh my god, this is terrible. But I'll just voxel remesh this to finish off the process of smoothing. I'll just kick over some symmetry and finish out the smoothing process. Now I want to make sure this will still fit over my leg, so let's measure this. So 139 millimeters-ish. And this down here is 95 millimeters-ish. So I think it should fit. I hope it does. I'm not printing it again. And making sure the height is right. In the middle here, it's like 273 millimeters, which is a-okay for me. Now, I need to put my leg in this thing, so I'm going to split the model right behind this edge here so it hides it nicely. Now that the model is split, I can isolate each half and then hide it so we can add some connection points just like we did with the belt. I'm just going to make a loop of elastic so I can actually wear it, but this box needs to be 35 millimeters high, 15 millimeters wide, and 15 millimeters deep. I'm going to duplicate that shape with X-ray turned on so I can see what I'm doing. Just make a little C shape. And I'll make this Boolean cube out a little wider. I'm actually going to clone the original box, hide that, and subtract the Boolean cube out of the original cube so we have the shape we want. Then I'm going to take the first box, clone, and I'll rotate it by 45 degrees. And I'm just going to make a little 45-degree corner here so it just prints nicer and supports don't have to build all the way up to the little C shapes here. This is when my footage stuttered, so I don't know what happens when I screen record, but I think it's time for a new iPad. But if you really want to know how to do this, just watch the belt video, it's the same gist. But what I did here is just made attachments, lined everything up, had a loop on each side of the split. I mean, once you get the primitive together, it's pretty straightforward. Just make sure to voxel remesh your shape together after you join it and trim it. Don't make the same mistake I did with the belt. I'll just go in and mirror that over so that they're on both sides. And I did the same thing to the knee. You get the gist. Just make sure to voxel remesh everything together and then decimate it so that your slicer software is happy. I'm gonna move that up a smidge. You see how that's like almost a million vertices? Decimate that. Clearly, you must do that. I mean, you don't have to. You really don't have to, but you should. I just like going in with the select tool and just selecting everything and then remeshing it together. Like, you can join it, but it creates weird calculations in the slicer the way it prints. But for some reason it crashed again, so you get the gist. But we're going to finally name our layers. So that's the greave front, the greave back, and the knee. I'm sure, literally, I'm sure there is a proper name for it, but it's called knee today. I don't even know if I'm spelling greave right, to be honest. But we'll export all of these files and send it over to our slicer. So let's slice this bad boy. And I'm using my big Chungo Creality printer. So I'll take everything, open it up, hit no. I'll start organizing these. Man, they're huge. But I'm grateful I have a big printer now. I'm a big kid now. I'm a big kid now. I guess I'll have to repair that knee, but that's not too bad. I'll end up configuring this completely differently, but for now, this will do. This gets the gist across. I just want to make sure nothing's touching. And I'll take these two objects and assemble them. That way I can clone them. And clone the knee. In theory, this configuration looks like it works, but with the support, it does not. Well, make sure your support's enabled. I think I need to save some settings. And I like tree. Now we can look and see what it's supporting. And, it's a little sketchy down there, so, let's change that. I'm just gonna take both of these things and rotate them 180 degrees. Now that platform should be a lot more secure. I find that to be acceptable. Now let's look at these bad boys. And it's not bad, but it's not great either. So let's fix this situation. I'll just go in with the shear and paint in some supports down here. Now I can slice it and see what happens. And the support is building outside of plate and into the kneecaps. So, I have to change everything. want the brim to be a little bit more solid. I'll go intense and go 15 millimeters. I'll just go back in and fix this situation. I really want to change this from perspective to orthographic, and I have no idea how. I don't even know if it's possible in this slicer, but it's driving me insane. What I'll need to do to solve this problem is that I will need to put these in the middle, the knees in the corners, and make the greaves diagonal along the plate. I fucking hate perspective because I can't see what I'm doing. Now it should be okay, minus the collisions of the knee, but that's an easy fix. Just gotta move this over a smidge, and we'll finally be ready to print. Yay, nothing's colliding. All right, now let's get to printing. We essentially made an entire outfit, minus, you know, the stuff underneath. But I think that was really cool. That was really fun. I want to do it again. I've learned a lot about the practicality of the armor and what I need to do and the little bitty tweaks that I need to do. So instead of tweaking and finishing what I've already made, I'll just make it again but cooler with more sculptural details instead of hard surface sculpting. I'm having a ton of fun teaching you guys, and if you have any suggestions, I do absorb them, but I am on an armor kick right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pure delight. But if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you have anything to say or would like to comment, I do read all the comments. Leave a comment down below. And if you really like what I do, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.